Mommy, is Daddy coming to my birthday this year? That one question from her 7-year-old daughter shattered everything Carolyn thought she knew about her marriage. She was 7 months pregnant, 2 children at home, a husband who was supposed to be at the office. But a single glance at her phone revealed something devastating. His location was not his office, it was a hotel room, room 412. What Carolyn discovered that night would expose 4 years of lies. A secret affair, hidden bank accounts, and forged documents designed to leave her with nothing. But here's the twist no one saw coming. The billionaire who helped her escape her nightmare, he was about to gain everything her CEO husband threw away. One woman, 2 powerful men, in a single night that changed everything. This is a story of betrayal, survival, and the sweetest revenge of all.
Everything in these
Finding
documents
happiness with
is
someone
true.
who actually sees you. Stay with
so
me until the
glad we
end.
did
Trust
this
me,
today.
you will not want to miss how this
light
unfolds.
is beautiful.
Mommy, is Daddy coming to my birthday
We
this
have
year?
everything we need.
The question
right
hung in the air
here.
like smoke. Carolyn Mitchell stood at the kitchen island, her hands frozen mid-motion over the pink frosting. The decorating bag trembled slightly. A dollop of buttercream dropped onto the marble counter. She did not turn around. Could not turn around. Not yet. The refrigerator hummed. The clock on the wall ticked. Somewhere outside, a car door slammed. Of course he is, sweetheart, Carolyn said. The words tasted like lies. They had tasted like lies for years now. Daddy promised. Lily stood in the doorway. 7 years old today, brown hair and pigtails. Her new birthday dress was purple with silver stars. She had picked it out herself 3 weeks ago. Derek had not been there for that shopping trip either. He promised last year too, Lily said quietly. Carolyn finally turned. Her daughter's eyes were too old, too knowing. When had that happened? When had her little girl learned to expect disappointment? This year will be different, Carolyn said. But even as she spoke, her hand moved to her pocket, to her phone. She checked it without thinking. Lock, unlock, lock, unlock, lock. No messages from Derek. His assistant, Natasha, had confirmed his attendance yesterday. The party would start in 2 hours. 12 children from Lily's class, a princess cake, a magician, everything Derek's money could buy, everything except Derek himself. Can I help with the cake? Lily asked. Of course, baby. Come here. Carolyn lifted her daughter onto a kitchen stool. Together they added the final roses to the 3-tier cake. Pink and white, Lily's favorite colors. The kitchen smelled of vanilla and sugar and something Caroline could not name. Something like hope mixed with dread. Ethan wandered in from the living room, 5 years old, quiet like his father, but soft where Derek was hard. He climbed onto the stool next to his sister without a word. Can I lick the bowl? He asked. After we finished decorating. Caroline's phone buzzed. She grabbed it too quickly, nearly knocked over the food coloring. A text from Brenda. Running 5 minutes late, save me cake. Not Derek. She checked the time. 1 hour and 47 minutes until the party. I'm going to call Daddy, she announced. You two finish the roses. Small ones around the bottom, remember? The children nodded. Caroline walked to the hallway, dialed Derek's office number. Her heart pounded against her ribs. The baby kicked, hard, as if sensing her distress. 7 months pregnant with their 3rd child. And she could not reach her husband on their daughter's birthday. The phone rang, once, twice, 3 times. Mitchell Industries, Mr. Mitchell's office. Natasha's voice, smooth and professional. But something was different today, softer, almost intimate. Natasha, this is Caroline. I need to speak with my husband. A pause, too long. Carolyn heard something in the background, fabric rustling, a door closing. Mrs. Mitchell, I'm afraid Mr. Mitchell is in a meeting that's running long. A meeting on Saturday. Yes, he asked me to send his regrets. He'll try to make it to the end of the party. Try. He would try to make it to the end of his daughter's 7th birthday party. Natasha, please tell him to call me immediately. Of course, Mrs. Mitchell. The line went dead. Carolyn stood in the hallway, her hand pressed against the wall for support. The wallpaper was cream with tiny gold flowers. Derek's mother had chosen it. Caroline had never liked it, had never said so. The baby kicked again. She pressed her other hand to her belly. I am not overreacting. This is not normal. None of this is normal. She walked back to the kitchen, smiled at her children, helped Ethan lick the frosting bowl, laughed at the appropriate moments, said the appropriate things, but her mind was somewhere else, running calculations, counting absences, tallying excuses. 37. That was the number. 37 school events Derek had missed in the past 2 years. She had started counting it after the first dozen. A morbid habit, a way of proving to herself that she was not imagining things. The party guests arrived at 2 o'clock sharp, 12 children in their best clothes. Parents lingered awkwardly, making small talk about summer camps and school applications. Carolyn smiled until her face ached. "Where's Derek?" asked Miranda Chen. Her son Tommy was in Lily's class. "I was hoping to catch him about that investment opportunity." "Working," Caroline said. "You know how it is." Miranda nodded sympathetically, but there was something else in her eyes, a flicker of knowledge, or perhaps pity. The magician arrived. The children screamed with delight. Rabbits appeared from hats. Scarves became doves. Lily sat in the front row, her face bright with wonder. Carolyn stood at the back of the room, her phone in her hand, checking, always checking, lock, unlock, lock, nothing. At 3:30, she excused herself, walked to the powder room, locked the door, sat on the closed toilet lid. Her hands were shaking. She opened her phone, opened the Find My app. The one Derek did not know she had installed on his phone last year. She had told herself it was for emergencies, for safety, but safety meant something different now. Derek's location showed his office building. She zoomed in. The blue dot was not inside Mitchell Industries. It was next door, the Waverly Hotel. Carolyn stared at the screen. The blue dot did not move, had not moved in over an hour. A meeting, at a hotel, on Saturday, on their daughter's birthday. She closed the app, opened it again. The dot was still there. I am not crazy. I know what I am seeing. A knock on the door. "Mrs. Mitchell, the children are ready for cake." Carolyn stood, straightened her dress, a navy blue maternity dress that cost $400. Derek had not noticed when she bought it, had not noticed when she wore it this morning. "Coming," she said. She walked back to the party, lit the candles on the cake, led the singing, watched her daughter close her eyes and make a wish. "I wish Daddy would come home," Lily whispered. The words were barely audible, but Caroline heard them, felt them like a knife between her ribs. Derek arrived at 4:15. The party was almost over. Most of the children had already left. Lily was playing with her new toys in the corner. Her earlier excitement faded to something quieter. "Sorry I'm late," Derek said. He kissed Caroline's cheek. A brief press of lips, perfunctory. The meeting ran longer than expected. He smelled wrong. That was Caroline's first thought, not his usual cologne. Something floral underneath. Feminine. "Daddy!" Lily ran to him, wrapped her arms around his legs. "You came!" "Of course I came, princess. Happy birthday." He picked her up, swung her around once, put her down, checked his phone. "I got you something special," he said. "It's in the car. I'll get it later." Later. Everything was always later. Caroline watched her husband. The way his eyes darted to his phone, the way his collar was slightly askew, the way he stood near the door, ready to leave at any moment. She had been blind for so long, willfully blind, but the blindfold was slipping now, and what she saw underneath was terrifying. That night, after the children were asleep, Caroline made a decision. She waited until Derek retreated to his home office, waited until she heard the lock click. Then she got in her car and drove. The Waverly Hotel glowed against the night sky. Elegant, expensive, the kind of place Derek's clients stayed when they visited the city. The valet recognized her car. His face flickered with something, fear, pity, knowledge. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said. "Are you meeting Mr. Mitchell?" "Yes," she lied. "Room 412. The valet hesitated, then nodded. "Of course, right this way." Room 412. She had guessed, had pulled the number from thin air, but the valet's reaction told her everything. The elevator rose slowly. Caroline's heart pounded. The baby kicked. Her palms were slick with sweat. The hallway carpet was thick and silent. She walked to the room 412, stood outside the door, listened. Nothing at first, then voices. Low, intimate, a woman's laugh. Derek's voice, warm in a way it had not been with her in years. She doesn't suspect anything. Carolyn's too busy with the kids to notice. Carolyn pressed her hand against the door. The wood was cool under her palm. Solid. Real. I am not crazy. I know what I heard. She took out her phone, photographed the room number, the door, the hallway. Evidence. She needed evidence. Then she walked away, pressed the elevator button, rode down to the lobby, walked to the parking garage. She sat in her car for 47 minutes, unable to drive, unable to think, unable to breathe. The leather steering wheel grew warm under her grip. The garage lights buzzed overhead. Somewhere a car alarm went off and then stopped. 6 years, 2 children, a third on the way, and I am parked in a garage because my husband is in a hotel room with another woman. The baby kicked, once, twice. A reminder. She was not alone in this, would never be alone again. Carolyn started the car, drove home, parked in the garage, walked inside. Derek's office door was still closed, still locked. She climbed the stairs to their bedroom, lay down on the California King mattress that Derek had chosen, stared at the ceiling fan spinning slowly overhead. She did not sleep. The morning light came slowly, gray first, then gold. Caroline lay perfectly still, watching shadows crawl across the ceiling. Derek's side of the bed was empty, cold. He had not come to bed at all. She rose carefully. Her back ached. The baby had been restless all night, turning and kicking as if sensing her turmoil. 7 months pregnant, and she felt ancient, hollowed out. The shower ran hot against her skin. She stood under the water until it went cold, then dressed mechanically. Navy pants, white blouse, pearl earrings that had been her grandmother's. Armor. She was putting on armor. Derek sat at the breakfast table when she came downstairs, reading the Wall Street Journal, coffee steaming beside his plate. He looked up briefly when she entered. "Morning, Buster," he said. "I have to go into the office early. Emergency board meeting. On Sunday. You know how it is." He did not meet her eyes. Business doesn't stop for weekends. Caroline poured herself orange juice. Her hands were steady. She was proud of that. "The children want to go to the park today," she said. "I thought maybe this afternoon you could join us." "I'll try." Try, that word again. The word that meant no, the word that had meant no for years. Derek folded his paper, stood, kissed her forehead absently. "Don't wait up tonight. This meeting could run late." He was gone before she could respond. The door closed behind him with a soft click. Final. Decisive. Carolyn sat at the table alone. The orange juice grew warm in her glass. The morning stretched empty before her. The children woke at 8. Lily bounced into the kitchen, still riding the high of birthday gifts. Ethan followed quietly, his stuffed elephant tucked under his arm. "Where's Daddy?" Lily asked. "Work, sweetheart." "But it's Sunday." "I know." Carolyn forced a smile. "Daddy's very busy, but we're going to have a wonderful day, just the 3 of us. How about the zoo?" The zoo was crowded, families everywhere, fathers pushing strollers, fathers carrying children on their shoulders, fathers present, fathers there. Carolyn watched them with new eyes, bitter eyes. Had Derek ever carried Lily on his shoulders? She could not remember. Had he ever pushed Ethan's stroller? Surely he must have. Once, in the beginning. But the beginning felt like another lifetime, another marriage, another Caroline. They watched the elephants, ate overpriced hot dogs, bought stuffed animals at the gift shop. Lily chose a penguin. Ethan chose a lion. "Mommy, are you okay?" Lily asked on the drive home. Caroline glanced in the rearview mirror. Her daughter's eyes were worried. Too old again. Always too old. "I'm fine, baby, just tired. Growing a baby is hard work." "Is Daddy excited about the new baby?" The question hit like a fist. Caroline gripped the steering wheel tighter. "Of course he is," she said. "Daddy loves you all very much." But even as she spoke, she wondered, did Derek love them? Had he ever? Or were they just accessories to his perfect life? props in the story of his success. That night, after the children were in bed, Caroline sat in Derek's home office. He was at his so-called board meeting. The door had been locked, but she knew where he kept the spare key, behind the Hemingway first edition on the third shelf. Derek thought he was clever. He was not as clever as he believed. The desk drawers yielded nothing interesting. Contracts, financial reports, meeting notes, all legitimate, all boring. But the filing cabinet was different, locked with a combination. She tried their anniversary first. Nothing. Then Lily's birthday. Nothing. Then their wedding date. The lock clicked open. Inside were folders, dozens of them, neatly labeled, obsessively organized. The first folder contained bank statements, an account she had never seen, opened 4 years ago, regular deposits, regular withdrawals. Current balance, $387,000. Caroline's hands trembled as she turned the pages. Credit card statements, jewelry purchases, Tiffany, Cartier, Harry Winston, necklaces and bracelets and rings she had never received, lingerie receipts, La Perla, agent provocateur, sizes that were not hers, a lease agreement, an apartment on the Upper East Side, 2 bedrooms, 3,000 square feet, monthly rent, $12,000, 4 years. This has been happening for 4 years. Caroline felt dizzy. The room spun around her. She gripped the edge of the desk, forcing herself to breathe. At the bottom of the drawer, one final folder, labeled simply, Prenuptial Modification. She opened it, read the first page, then read it again, and again. The document claimed to be an amendment to their original prenuptial agreement, signed 2 months after their wedding, reducing her share of Derek's company from 50% to nothing, eliminating her claim to any business assets, leaving her with only what she had brought into the marriage, which was nothing. Caroline had been a kindergarten teacher when they met, 26 years old, student loans, a shared apartment with 3 roommates, nothing. But the signature at the bottom of the page was hers, her name, her handwriting, except it was not. Caroline had never signed this document, had never seen this document, had never agreed to any modification of their prenuptial agreement. The signature was forged. Her husband had not only been cheating on her for 4 years, he had been planning to leave her with nothing, had forged her signature to steal her future. Caroline photographed every page, every receipt, every bank statement. Her hands shook so badly that some of the pictures blurred. She took them again and again, until she had perfect copies of everything. Then she put the folders back, closed the filing cabinet, locked it with the same combination. She walked to the kitchen, poured a glass of water, drank it standing at the sink, staring out at the dark garden. The panic started in her chest, spread outward, her vision tunneled. Her breathing became shallow and fast. No, not now. I cannot fall apart now. She gripped the counter, forced herself to count. 1, 2, 3, 4, all the way to 10. Then again and again, the baby kicked, strong, insistent. Right. The baby, the children, they needed her. They needed her to be strong. Caroline picked up her phone, dialed Brenda's number. It was after midnight, but Brenda answered on the second ring. What's wrong? No, hello, no. What time is it? Just what's wrong, because Brenda knew. Had always known, had been waiting for this call for years. I need you, Caroline said. I need you to come over, now. I'm on my way. The line went dead. Caroline set down the phone, walked upstairs, began to pack. 3 suitcases. The children's things first, clothes, favorite toys, books they could not sleep without. Then her own essentials, documents, jewelry that had been her grandmother's, the cash she kept hidden in her closet, $3,000 for emergencies. This was an emergency. Brenda arrived at 1:30 in the morning. Her hair was messy. She wore sweatpants and a Columbia sweatshirt. She looked at the suitcases in the hallway and did not ask a single question. Where are we going? She asked. I don't know yet, anywhere but here. The Marriott downtown. I'll book it on my card. He won't be able to trace it. Caroline had not thought about tracing, had not thought about any of the practical details. Her mind was still spinning, trying to process the magnitude of Derek's betrayal. "The children are asleep," she said. "We'll carry them. I'll take Ethan. You take Lily. Leave the suitcases for now. I'll come back for them." They moved quietly through the dark house. Carolyn lifted Lily from her bed. The child murmured but did not wake. Brenda gathered Ethan, stuffed elephant and all. The night air was cold. November in New York. Caroline's breath came out in white puffs. She buckled Lily into Brenda's car. Then Ethan, then herself. Brenda drove. Caroline stared out the window at the passing streetlights. The city looked different at this hour. Quieter, emptier, like a stage between performances. "What did he do?" Brenda finally asked. Carolyn told her everything. The hotel, the phone call, the bank statements, the forged prenuptial, the 4 years of lies. Brenda listened without interruption. Her jaw tightened. Her hands gripped the steering wheel. "I knew," she said when Caroline finished. "I didn't have proof, but I knew. There was always something off about him. The way he looked at you, the way he didn't look at you. Why didn't you say something? Would you have listened?" Caroline considered the question. Honestly, considered it. "No," she admitted. "I would have defended him, made excuses." "Exactly." Brenda reached over and squeezed Caroline's hand. "But you're listening now. That's what matters." The hotel room was beige and anonymous. 2 double beds, a bathroom with tiny soap bars, a window overlooking the parking lot. Carolyn laid Lily on one bed, Ethan on the other, covered them with the thin hotel blankets, watched them sleep. Brenda had gone back for the suitcases. Caroline was alone with her children, her sleeping, innocent children who had no idea their world had just shattered. She sat on the floor between the beds, pressed her back against the nightstand, let the tears finally come. Quiet tears, soundless. She could not wake the children, could not let them see her break. The baby kicked, a reminder, a promise. "We will survive this. I will make sure of it." Brenda returned at 3 with the suitcases, found Caroline still on the floor, still crying silently. "Come on," Brenda said softly. "Let's get you to bed." She helped Caroline up, led her to the bathroom, made her wash her face, brush her teeth, change into pajamas. "Sleep," Brenda ordered. "I'll be right here. I'm not going anywhere." Caroline climbed into bed beside Lily. Her daughter immediately rolled toward her, seeking warmth even in sleep. "I love you," Carolyn whispered. "I love you so much. I'm going to fix this. I promise." Lily did not stir. Caroline closed her eyes, waited for sleep that would not come. The hours stretched. The hotel room hummed with silence. At 6 in the morning, her phone began to ring. Derek, Derek, Derek. She let it go to voicemail, let it ring again and again. Finally, a text message. "Carolyn, I don't know what you think you're doing, but this is unacceptable. Come home immediately. We'll discuss this like adults." She read the message 3 times. Discuss. Like adults. As if she were a child throwing a tantrum. As if his 4 years of betrayal were nothing more than a misunderstanding. Another message. "You're being irrational. This is probably pregnancy hormones. Call me back." Pregnancy hormones, of course. She was just a hysterical pregnant woman. Overreacting. Making mountains out of molehills. "I am not crazy. I know what I found." She typed back one word. "No." Then she turned off her phone, rolled over, watched her daughter sleep. The sun was rising outside the hotel window. A new day, a new life. The old Caroline, the one who made excuses and ignored red flags, was dead. The new Caroline was just beginning. Morning came with the sound of cartoons. Lily had found the remote and turned on the television. Ethan sat beside her, still clutching his elephant. They watched a show about talking animals, oblivious to the earthquake that had cracked their family apart. Caroline lay in bed, watching them. Her children, her reasons, her everything. "Mommy, are we on vacation?" Lily asked. "Something like that, sweetheart." "Is Daddy coming?" The question twisted in Caroline's chest. She sat up slowly, forced a smile onto her face. "Not right now. This is a special trip. Just us." "Can we order room service?" Ethan asked. Caroline laughed, a real laugh, surprising herself. "Yes, absolutely. Order whatever you want." She picked up the hotel phone, let Lily recite their breakfast order to the confused front desk clerk. Pancakes with chocolate chips, bacon, orange juice, extra whipped cream. Brenda emerged from the bathroom, dressed in the same sweatpants from last night. Her eyes were tired but determined. "I called my mother," she said quietly. "The kids can stay with her today. You have phone calls to make." "I can't just—" "Yes, you can. They'll be fine. Mom will take them to the children's museum. Stuffed animals everywhere. They'll love it." Carolyn wanted to argue, wanted to keep her children close, wrapped in her arms where nothing could touch them. But Brenda was right. There were battles ahead. The children did not need to witness them. After breakfast, after hugs and promises to be back soon, Brenda's mother whisked Lily and Ethan away. The hotel room fell silent. "First things first," Brenda said. "You need a lawyer." "I don't even know where to start." "Luckily I do." Brenda pulled out her phone. And Robert Hartley, my cousin used him for her divorce. Vicious but fair. Exactly what you need. The law office was downtown. Mahogany desks and leather chairs and oil paintings of serious men. Robert Hartley was in his 50s, silver-haired, with kind eyes that sharpened when he heard the word fraud. "Mrs. Mitchell," he said, studying the photographs Caroline had transferred to a flash drive. "What you're showing me is extremely serious." "I know, Yeshkinan. This forged prenuptial modification constitutes federal fraud. Combined with the hidden assets and documented infidelity, your husband is facing significant legal exposure." Carolyn sat straighter in her chair. "What does that mean for me, for the children?" "It means leverage." Robert spread the documents across his desk. "Your original prenuptial gave you 50% of his company. That's still valid. This forgery actually works in your favor. It shows premeditation, intent to defraud." "I don't want revenge," Carolyn said. The words surprised her, but they were true. "I just want my children protected." Robert studied her for a long moment. "With respect, Mrs. Mitchell, protecting your children and holding your husband accountable might require the same approach." The drive back to the hotel was quiet. Brenda navigated through midday traffic while Caroline stared out the window. "You okay?" Brenda asked. "I keep thinking about the past 4 years. All the times I explained away his absences. All the times I told myself I was overreacting. That's what gaslighting does. It makes you doubt your own reality." "I feel so stupid." Brenda reached over and squeezed her hand. "You're not stupid. You loved him. You trusted him. Those aren't character flaws. He's the one who betrayed that trust." The elevator doors opened to their floor. Caroline stepped out, already reaching for her room key, and stopped. Vivian Mitchell stood in the hallway. Derek's mother, impeccably dressed in a cream pantsuit, pearls at her throat, her face arranged in an expression of concern that did not reach her eyes. "Caroline, dear, there you are. How did you find me?" "Derek has his ways." Vivian stepped closer. Her perfume was overwhelming. Roses and something underneath. Something cold. "We need to talk about this little tantrum of yours." Tantrum. Running away in the middle of the night. Taking the children. Worrying everyone. Vivian shook her head. "This isn't like you, Caroline. You've always been so sensible." "Sensible?" Caroline's voice was flat. "Your son has been having an affair for 4 years. He forged documents to steal my share of his company. Men have needs, dear." Vivian cut her off. "You've been so focused on the children lately. Perhaps if you'd paid more attention to your husband." "Get out." Vivian blinked. "I beg your pardon?" "Get out." Caroline's hands were shaking, but her voice was steady. "I will not stand here and be told that my husband's infidelity is my fault." "Caroline, you're being emotional. This is clearly the pregnancy hormones talking." "My pregnancy hormones are just fine. What's not fine is a marriage where I've been invisible for 6 years. What's not fine is a mother-in-law who knew about the affair and said nothing." Vivian's face went pale, then red. You knew the way you looked at me at Christmas, the way you asked if Derek was working late again. You knew and you protected him." For a long moment, Vivian said nothing. Her composure cracked, just slightly, just enough to show the truth underneath. "He's my son," she finally said. "What did you expect me to do?" "I expected you to be honest. I expected you to treat me like family." "You were never family." Vivian's voice turned sharp, bitter. You were just the girl my son knocked up. A kindergarten teacher with nothing to offer. I told him to pay you off and move on. But no, he had to be noble. He had to marry you. The words hung in the air, ugly and true. Leave, Caroline said, and don't come back. Vivian adjusted her pearls, drew herself up to her full height. You'll regret this, Caroline. My son is a powerful man. You have no idea what you're getting into. Maybe not, but I know what I'm getting out of. She waited until Vivian disappeared into the elevator. Then she walked to her room, closed the door, slid the deadbolt into place. Her legs gave out. She sank to the carpet. Back against the door, hands pressed to her face. I deserve better than this. I deserve better than all of this. The baby kicked, strong and insistent. I know, little one, I know. We're going to be okay. But even as she thought it, she was not sure. Not sure of anything anymore. That afternoon, memories came unbidden, flooding through her like a river breaking its dam. The early days, when Derek looked at her like she was the only woman in the world, when he brought her flowers for no reason, when he held her hand walking down the street, their wedding, small and intimate, just family and close friends. Derek's vows had made her cry. He had promised to cherish her, to honor her, to see her every day. When had he stopped seeing her? The first pregnancy, Lily, Derek in the delivery room holding her hand, crying when he heard his daughter's first cry. He had seemed so present then, so there. But even then, the cracks were forming. Late nights at the office, missed dinners, distracted eyes at breakfast. She had made excuses. He was building his company, providing for their family, sacrificing now so they could enjoy later. But later never came. The sacrifices just kept mounting. His time, his attention, his presence. By the time Ethan was born, Derek had missed 3 of her doctor's appointments. By the first anniversary, he had missed their dinner reservation. By the second year, he had stopped making reservations at all. And through it all, she had smiled, had explained, had defended him to friends who expressed concern, had told herself this was just what marriage looked like, that all couples went through rough patches. 4 years. This has been happening for 4 years. The first year of his affair, she had been pregnant with Ethan. Morning sickness and swollen ankles and a husband who came home smelling of someone else's perfume. She had noticed the perfume. Of course she had. She was not stupid. But she had explained it away. A client, a colleague, an elevator encounter. Never the truth. Never the obvious, devastating truth. The signs were all there. I just refused to see them. The phone call from his office at odd hours. The weekends he needed to work. The credit card bills she had stopped examining because they made her head hurt. She had been her own jailer, had locked herself in a prison of denial and called it love. No more. Brenda returned with the children at 6. They burst through the hotel door, chattering about dinosaur bones and butterfly exhibits. Mommy, guess what? Lily held up a stuffed triceratops. Grandma Marge got me a dinosaur. That's wonderful, sweetheart. And Ethan got a shark, Lily continued. Even though sharks aren't dinosaurs, he just really wanted a shark. Ethan held up his shark proudly. His name is Bitey. Caroline laughed, genuine this time. Her children had that effect on her. They made everything seem survivable. After room service dinner, after bath time and story time, after the children were asleep in their beds, Caroline stood by the window. The city lights glittered below. A million lives, a million stories. Hers was just one of many. What are you thinking? Brenda asked quietly. I'm thinking about who I was, before Derek, before all of this. And I was happy. I was enough. I didn't need someone else to complete me. You're still that person. Carolyn shook her head. No, that person is gone, but maybe I can find a new version. A better version. You will. Brenda joined her at the window. I know you will. You're the strongest person I've ever met, Caroline. You just forgot for a while. He made you forget. He made me feel invisible. You were never invisible. Not to me, not to those kids, just to him. And that's his failure, not yours. Carolyn leaned her head against the cool glass. The baby shifted inside her. a reminder that life continued, that new beginnings were possible. Somewhere along the way, I became invisible, but not anymore. Never again. The hotel bathroom floor was cold against Caroline's legs. 3 in the morning. The children slept peacefully in the next room. Brenda had gone home to get clothes and supplies, and Caroline sat on the floor of a bathroom that smelled of industrial cleaner, trying to hold herself together. Her phone had been buzzing it all day. Derek, his lawyer, Vivian, more numbers she did not recognize. She had turned it off at 9, but the silence was almost worse. It gave her space to think, and thinking was dangerous right now. What am I doing? I have no money, no home, 2 children and another on the way. I left my entire life because of what? Pride? Some idea that I deserve better? The doubts crept in like smoke under a door. Insidious, suffocating. Maybe Vivian was right. Maybe she was being irrational, hormonal, dramatic. Maybe she should just go home, apologize. Pretend the last 3 days had never happened. The baby kicked, hard enough to make her gasp. No, no, I cannot go back. I cannot unsee what I have seen. I cannot unknow what I know. She pressed her hands to her belly, felt the movement beneath her palms. I know, she whispered. I know we're going to be okay. I just need a minute. 1 minute to fall apart. Then I'll put myself back together. The tears came then, silent, shaking sobs that seemed to rise from somewhere deep inside her. Years of suppressed pain breaking loose at once. She cried for the marriage she had believed in, for the husband she had trusted, for the future she had imagined, family dinners and grandchildren and growing old together. That future was gone now, shattered like glass on marble. But maybe, just maybe, a different future was possible. One she had not imagined, one she could not yet see. The bathroom tiles were hard beneath her. She should get up, should go back to bed, should stop crying in a hotel bathroom at 3 in the morning. But for now, she let herself feel it all. The grief, the rage, the fear, and underneath it all, something else, something small and fierce and growing. Hope. Morning brought chaos. Derek's lawyers had filed an emergency motion, claiming parental kidnapping, claiming mental instability, requesting immediate custody of the children. Robert Hartley called at 7:30. His voice was calm but urgent. They're moving fast, he said, faster than I expected. Your husband is claiming you left in an unstable mental state, took the children without warning, and refused all contact. That's not true, I responded to his text. I know, I have the records, but perception matters here. We need to get ahead of this. What do I do? For now, keep documenting everything, every call, every passivage, every interaction, and try to maintain as normal a routine as possible for the children. Normal. As if anything about this situation was normal. The story hit the papers that afternoon. Not front page, thank God, but a small article in the business section. CEO's wife flees with children. Sources claim mental breakdown. Caroline read the headline on Brenda's phone, read it again. They're painting me as crazy, she said. Her voice sounded hollow, distant. They're running scared, Brenda replied. That's what scared people do. They attack. But the children, what if they see this? What if their friends at school? We'll deal with that, one thing at a time. One thing at a time. It seemed impossible. Everything was happening at once, an avalanche of problems burying her alive. That night, Caroline did what she always did when overwhelmed. She cleaned. Brenda's guest room, where they had moved that afternoon, was already spotless. But Caroline found things to organize anyway. Drawer contents rearranged, hangers sorted by color, toiletries lined up in military precision. At midnight, she was on her hands and knees, scrubbing the baseboards with a toothbrush. Her knuckles were raw. Her back ached. But she could not stop. Caroline? Brenda's voice from the doorway, soft but firm. It's time to stop. The baseboards are filthy. The baseboards are fine. You need to sleep. I can't sleep. Caroline kept scrubbing. Every time I close my eyes, I see his face. I hear his voice. Her voice cracked. I cannot stop. Brenda crossed the room, took the toothbrush gently from Caroline's hand, helped her to her feet. This is called a trauma response, Brenda said. Cleaning when you can't control anything else. I did the same thing when my dad died. Reorganized my entire apartment at 3 in the morning. I feel like I'm losing my mind. You're not. You're surviving. There's a difference. They sat on the bed together. Caroline leaned against Brenda's shoulder, let herself be held. What if I can't do this? She whispered. What if I'm not strong enough? You are. You've always been strong, Caroline. You just forgot for a while. He made you forget. Somewhere along the way, I became invisible. To him, to everyone. Not to me. Brenda squeezed her hand. Never to me. The next morning brought another blow. Derek had frozen their joint accounts, every single one. Carolyn's credit cards were canceled, her access to their shared investments revoked. Can he do that? She asked Robert on the phone. Her voice was remarkably calm, considering. Unfortunately, yes, at least temporarily. We'll file a motion to restore your access, but it will take time. I have $3,000, that's all. I can't even buy groceries. Stay with your friend for now. I'll push to expedite the financial hearing. $3,000. That was supposed to cover her entire future, her and the children and the baby on the way. The panic rose in her chest, sharp and hot. She excused herself to the bathroom, closed the door, pressed her back against it. Breathe, just breathe. 1, 2, 3, 4, hold. 1, 2, 3, 4, release. Again and again until her heart rate slowed, until her vision cleared. Starting over feels impossible, but staying feels worse. She washed her face with cold water, studied herself in the mirror. 34 years old, dark circles under her eyes, cheeks thinner than they should be. 7 months pregnant with her third child. She did not look like a woman ready to fight a legal battle against one of the most powerful CEOs in the city, but looks were deceiving. I can do this, she said to her reflection. I have to do this. There is no other choice. Her reflection stared back, silent, unyielding, ready. That afternoon, she took the children to the park. Normal routine. That was what Robert had advised. The November air was cold but clear. Lily ran ahead to the swings. Ethan followed more slowly, clutching Bitey the shark. Caroline sat on a bench, watched her children play, tried to feel normal. A woman sat down beside her. Familiar face. Miranda Chen, the mother from Lily's class, the one who had asked about Derek at the birthday party. Caroline. Miranda's voice was careful. I heard what happened. I just wanted to say, I'm sorry. Thank you. And I wanted to tell you something. Miranda hesitated, looked around as if checking for eavesdroppers. I've seen them together, Derek and that woman, at the Four Seasons bar, 3 months ago. I didn't know how to tell you. Carolyn absorbed this information. Another confirmation, another knife. Thank you for telling me now, she said. Is there anything I can do? The other moms and I, we're on your side, whatever the papers say. The other moms, her side, it was such a small thing, such a simple statement of support, but it cracked something loose inside her. That means more than you know, Carolyn said, and meant it. After Miranda left, Caroline sat on the bench alone, watching Lily push Ethan on the swings, listening to their laughter carry across the playground. They are why I am doing this. They are the reason I cannot give up. Her phone buzzed. An unknown number. She hesitated, then answered. Mrs. Mitchell? This is Natasha Price. Carolyn went cold. The other woman, Derek's mistress, calling her directly. Why are you calling me? Because I just found out what he did to you. Natasha's voice was shaky. The forged prenuptial, the hidden accounts. I didn't know. I swear I didn't know. What difference does that make? It makes a difference to me. A long pause. He told me he was going to leave you. For 4 years, he's been promising to leave you. I just found out that was a lie too. Carolyn said nothing, waited. I'm willing to testify, Natasha said, against him in your divorce proceedings. I have emails, text, everything. Why would you do that? Because I'm angry, because I feel like an idiot, because, Natasha's voice cracked, because maybe if I'd never gotten involved with him, you'd still have your life. Carolyn considered this. The woman who had stolen her husband, offering to help destroy him. "I'll have my lawyer contact you," she finally said. She hung up, sat very still. The universe has a strange sense of humor, but she was not laughing, not yet. The law office felt different today, more urgent, more hopeful. Robert Hartley spread a stack of papers across his desk, printouts of emails, screenshots of text messages, financial records. "Natasha Price's testimony is devastating," he said. "4 years of documented infidelity, promises to leave you that he never intended to keep, and she has evidence that he discussed the forged prenuptial with his personal attorney." "He planned this?" Caroline said slowly. "From the beginning." "It appears so. The modification was prepared 6 weeks after your wedding. He was already setting the groundwork to leave you with nothing." Caroline absorbed this, tried to feel the appropriate rage, but mostly she just felt tired. "What happens now?" "Now we file for divorce. We present the evidence of fraud. We request full restoration of your original prenuptial rights. 50% of Mitchell Industries." 50%. She had not even thought about the money, had been so focused on survival, on the children, on getting through each day. "That's millions of dollars," she said. "It's what you're owed, what he tried to steal from you." Robert leaned forward. "Mrs. Mitchell, you've been wronged in ways that will take years to fully understand. Don't let guilt about money cloud your judgment. He certainly had no guilt about defrauding you." She left the law office at noon, her mind spinning, her steps uncertain. The lobby was marble and glass, cold and impersonal. She pressed the elevator button, waited. Another figure approached, a man, tall, with silver at his temples and kind eyes. He stood beside her, also waiting for the elevator. "Rough day?" he asked. She glanced at him. He was looking at her with genuine concern, not the polite non-interest of strangers, something more. "Rough year," she heard herself say. The elevator doors opened. They stepped inside together. He pressed the lobby button. "Harrison Cole," he said, extending his hand. "Caroline Mitchell." His eyes flickered at the name. Recognition, but no judgment. "Would you like a cup of coffee?" he asked. "There's a place next door that makes an excellent decaf. Say no, you do not know this man. You are 7 months pregnant and your life is falling apart." "Yes," she said, "I would." The coffee shop was quiet and warm, a refuge from the November chill. Harrison ordered for both of them without asking. Decaf latte for her, black coffee for him. "How did you know I needed decaf?" she asked. He glanced at her belly. "Lucky guess." She almost smiled. Almost. They sat at a corner table, steam rising from their cups. The world outside seemed far away. "You recognize my name," Carolyn said. "Do you know my husband?" "We've done business together. Not close associates, but our paths have crossed." Harrison paused. "I've always thought he was too impressed with himself, but then most CEOs are." "And you? What do you do?" "Investments mostly. Some philanthropic work." He shrugged. "I'm lucky enough to have resources. I try to use them well." Investments. Resources. Carolyn studied him more closely. The perfectly tailored coat. The understated watch that probably cost more than a year of her old teaching salary. "You're him, aren't you?" she said. "Harrison Cole of Cole Industries." He raised an eyebrow. "Guilty." "You're a billionaire." "Also guilty." He smiled slightly. "Does that change things?" "I don't know what it changes. I don't know what anything means anymore." The words came out before she could stop them. Honest and raw and completely inappropriate for a conversation with a stranger. But Harrison did not seem bothered. He leaned forward, listened. "Tell me," he said, "if you want. I have nowhere else to be." And so she told him. All of it, the affair, the forged documents, the frozen accounts, the newspaper articles, the children who kept asking when they could go home. Harrison listened without interruption. His face remained calm, but his eyes grew harder as the story progressed. "He did all that," Harrison said when she finished, "and he's trying to paint you as the unstable one." "Yes, that's remarkably evil." "I don't know if it's evil. I think he just never saw me as real, never saw any of us as real. We were props in his story, background characters." Harrison was quiet for a moment. His coffee had gone cold. He had not touched it. I know Derek Mitchell, he finally said. We've done business together. I always thought... He stopped. Never mind what I thought. What matters is what you need now. I need a miracle. Perhaps, he slid his business card across the table. Or perhaps you just need someone in your corner. Carolyn looked at the card, thick cream stock, gold lettering, a phone number and nothing else. Why are you doing this, she asked. You don't know me. No, but I know what it feels like to be invisible to someone who should see you. His voice softened. My ex-wife spent 10 years of our marriage wishing I was someone else. It takes a long time to recover from that kind of erasure. I'm sorry. Don't be. It made me who I am. He stood, placed cash on the table for the bill. Call me if you need anything, truly. A place to stay, a recommendation for a lawyer, someone to watch the children. Anything. He left before she could respond. The bell over the coffee shop door chimed as he disappeared into the November afternoon. Caroline sat alone with her cold latte, the business card warm in her hand. This is insane. I cannot accept help from a stranger. A billionaire stranger. A man I met in an elevator. But life had been insane for days now. Weeks, maybe years. What was one more impossible thing? That evening she told Brenda about the encounter. Brenda's eyes widened. Harrison Cole? The Harrison Cole? The guy who donated $50 million to build that children's hospital? I guess so. Caroline, Brenda grabbed her shoulders. Do you know how rich he is? Do you know what he could do for you? I'm not looking for a savior. I know, but maybe a friend with resources wouldn't be the worst thing right now. A friend, is that what he was? Could that be what he was? Carolyn did not know, could not know. Everything was too complicated, too raw. But for the first time in days, she felt something other than despair. Something that might have been hope. The phone calls from Derek continued. His tone had shifted. Less demanding, more pleading. Caroline, please. We can work this out. I made mistakes. I know that. But we have a family. We have children. Don't throw that away. She listened to the voicemail 3 times, trying to find sincerity in his words, trying to remember the man she had married. He wasn't there. Maybe he had never been there. Maybe she had loved an illusion all along. She did not call back. The mediation hearing was scheduled for the following week. Robert Hartley was cautiously optimistic. The evidence is overwhelming, he said. Even with his resources, Derek can't deny documented fraud. So I'll get the divorce? Almost certainly. The question is the settlement. He'll fight for the company, fight hard. I don't care about the company. I just want the children safe. I want enough to build a new life. Robert nodded slowly. That's admirable, Mrs. Mitchell. But may I offer some advice? Of course. Don't sell yourself short. You've given this man 6 years of your life, 3 children, your career, your identity. 50% of his company isn't greed, it's justice. Justice, the word felt strange on her tongue, foreign and sharp. She had spent so long trying to be reasonable, accommodating, easy to live with. The idea of demanding what she deserved felt almost transgressive. But why? Why should she settle for less? Because that's what she'd been taught, what she'd learned. Be grateful. Don't make waves. Take what you're given. No more. That night, lying in Brenda's guest room, she made a decision. She would fight, not for revenge, not for money, but for the principle of it. For every woman who had been erased by a man who couldn't see her. For every mother who had given everything and received nothing. And for herself. For the Caroline who had almost disappeared. She was coming back now, stronger than before. The counterstrike came without warning. Carolyn woke to pounding on Brenda's front door. 6:30 in the morning, the children still asleep, her heart racing before her mind had fully surfaced. Brenda got there first, opened the door to find 2 police officers and a man in a suit. Caroline Mitchell? The suit asked. That's me. Carolyn suddenly pushed forward, tried to keep her voice steady. I'm serving you with papers. Emergency custody motion filed by Derek Mitchell. You have 72 hours to appear in court. He thrust an envelope into her hands and left. The police officers lingered, looking uncomfortable. Ma'am, we're not here to take the children, one of them said. Just verifying service. Your husband claimed we might have trouble reaching you. I haven't been hiding. We can see that. He tipped his hat slightly. Good luck, ma'am. The door closed. Caroline stood in the hallway, the envelope heavy in her hands. What does it say? Brenda asked. Caroline opened it, read again. He's claiming I'm mentally unstable, suicidal ideation, danger to the children. Her voice was flat, hollow. He's attached a statement from a psychiatrist I've never met. Says I was showing signs of postpartum depression and refused treatment. That's a lie. Of course it's a lie, but it's a documented lie with a professional signature. The world tilted, shifted. Caroline grabbed the wall for support. They're going to take my children. He's going to take my children. Breathe, Brenda said. We need to call Robert, now. Robert's response was swift. Urgent motions filed. Expert witnesses lined up. A counter-narrative prepared. This psychiatrist is a known expert witness for hire, Robert explained over the phone. He's been discredited in 3 separate cases. We can attack his credibility. But can we win? A pause. Too long. I believe so. But I won't lie to you, Mrs. Mitchell. Your husband has resources. He can drag this out. Make your life hell. He's already doing that. The newspaper coverage intensified. Someone was leaking details to the press. Carolyn's hotel stay became evidence of her instability. Her move to Brenda's house became abandonment of the marital home. Every choice she made was twisted into proof of her unfitness. At the grocery store, she felt eyes on her, whispers following her down the aisles. A woman actually pointed. That's her, the crazy one, the one who kidnapped her own children. Carolyn left her cart in the middle of the frozen food section, walked to her car, sat in the parking lot with her hands on the steering wheel, shaking too hard to drive. Her phone rang. An unknown number. Against her better judgment, she answered. Mrs. Mitchell, this is Jane Chen from Channel 4 News. We're running a story on your custody dispute. Would you like to comment? No comment. Our sources say you've been experiencing mental health issues, that you left your home in the middle of the night with no warning, that Carolyn hung up, blocked the number, then blocked the next call and the next. By evening, she had blocked 14 numbers. Her voicemail was full of requests for comments, interviews, statements. Her life had become a spectacle. Her pain, entertainment. Brenda found her on the bathroom floor at midnight. Again, the same position, the same despair. I can't do this, Carolyn said. I can't fight him. He has too much, too many resources, too many people willing to lie for him. Yes, you can. Brenda sat down beside her. You have truth on your side. Truth doesn't matter. Don't you see that? He's creating a different truth, a better truth, one where I'm the villain and he's the victim. The court will see through it. Will they? Rich white CEO versus unstable pregnant wife. I know how this story ends. Brenda was quiet for a moment. Then she reached into her pocket, pulled out a business card. Call him. Carolyn looked at the card. Cream stock, gold lettering, Harrison Cole's number. No, I can't take help from a stranger. He's not a stranger. He's a good man who offered to help. There's no shame in accepting. There is if I can't pay him back. Caroline, Brenda's voice was firm. This isn't about debt. This is about survival. You have 2 children and a baby on the way. You are being systematically destroyed by a man who has spent years planning for this moment. If someone offers you a lifeline, you take it. You sort out the rest later. The business card was warm in Caroline's hand. Such a small thing, such an enormous decision. She dialed before she could change her mind. Harrison Cole, his voice was warm, alert, despite the late hour. It's Caroline Mitchell. We met at the coffee shop. I remember, how are you? How was she? That question had no simple answer. I'm in trouble, she said instead. Real trouble. And I don't know what to do. Tell me. So she did. The custody motion, the false psychiatric report, the media coverage, the frozen accounts. All of it spilling out in a rush of words and barely controlled tears. Harrison listened. When she finished, there was a pause. Then he spoke. My mother has a cottage upstate, 2 hours from the city, private, secure. The press won't find you there. I can't just. Yes, you can. The children need stability. You need space to think, to fight without cameras in your face. Why are you doing this? The question burst out of her. You don't know me. We've spoken twice. Another pause. Longer this time. Because I know what it's like to be invisible to someone who should see you, Harrison said finally. My ex-wife made me feel like a ghost in my own marriage. I spent years thinking something was wrong with me, that I wasn't enough. What changed? I realized the problem wasn't me. It was her. Her inability to see. Her choice not to look. His voice softened. You're not invisible, Carolyn. He just refused to see you. That's his failure, not yours. Tears streamed down her face. She did not try to stop them. I don't know how to accept help, she whispered. I've been alone for so long. Even when I was married. Especially when I was married. Then let this be your first lesson. You don't have to be alone anymore. The cottage was beautiful, nestled among maple trees at the end of a long gravel drive, white clapboard with blue shutters, a wraparound porch, a tire swing hanging from the oldest tree. Lily saw it first, gasped with delight. Mommy, it's like a fairy tale. It is, isn't it? They had driven up that morning, Caroline, Brenda, and the children, their meager possessions packed in the trunk, leaving the city and its chaos behind. A woman waited on the porch, silver-haired and elegant, with sharp eyes that softened when she saw the children. You must be Caroline. She descended the porch steps. I'm Margaret Cole, Harrison's mother. Thank you for having us. I can't begin to express. Margaret waved away the thanks. Nonsense. This cottage has been empty too long. It needs children's laughter. Lily had already spotted the tire swing. Can I try it, please? Of course, sweetheart. Ethan, go with your sister. The children ran off, their voices carried across the still November air, free and joyful, as if they had never known trouble. Margaret watched them with a smile, then turned to Carolyn to Indiana. My son tells me you're fighting a very hard battle. I am. Good. Margaret's voice was firm. A woman who won't fight for herself and her children is a woman who's already lost. Come inside. I'll make tea. The cottage interior was warm and welcoming. Worn rugs on hardwood floors, books everywhere, a fireplace that crackled with fresh flames. Caroline sat at the kitchen table while Margaret prepared tea. Real china cups, sugar in a crystal bowl. Harrison's father was like your husband, Margaret said without preamble. Successful, powerful, convinced the world owed him everything, including my silence. What happened? I stayed for 23 years, told myself it was for Harrison, for the family, for appearances. Margaret set the teacup before Caroline. I was wrong. Every year I stayed, I taught my son that a man could treat a woman that way, that it was normal, that it was acceptable. How did you finally leave? Margaret sat across from her hands wrapped around her own teacup. Harrison came home from college one Christmas. He was 21, old enough to see clearly. He watched his father dismiss me at dinner, criticize my cooking, make a joke at my expense. She paused. After dinner, Harrison took my hand, looked me in the eye, and said, Mom, you deserve someone who sees you. Carolyn felt tears prick her eyes. I filed for divorce the next week, Margaret continued. Best decision I ever made. Not because I found someone else. I didn't, not for many years. But because I found myself again. The woman I'd been before. The woman I'd buried alive to please a man who couldn't be pleased. I'm afraid, Carolyn admitted. Afraid I've forgotten who I was. Afraid there's nothing left to find. Then you'll build something new. Margaret reached across the table, took Caroline's hand. You're not starting from nothing, dear. You're starting from experience, from wisdom, from survival. That's a powerful foundation. The children burst through the door, cheeks red from cold, eyes bright with adventure. Mommy, there's a potted, Lily announced. Grandma Marge says there might be fish. Grandma Marge. Caroline looked at Margaret questioningly. I told them they could call me that, Margaret said. If that's all right with you? Of course. Caroline's voice was thick. Of course it is. That night, in a bedroom with a view of the maple trees, Caroline slept deeply for the first time in weeks. No nightmares, no anxiety, just rest. And in the morning, she began to plan. Days passed, then weeks. The cottage became a cocoon, a safe space where the outside world couldn't reach. Carolyn watched her children rediscover childhood. Lily helped Margaret bake cookies. Ethan built forts in the living room. They laughed, they played, they forgot for hours at a time that their lives had shattered. Harrison visited on weekends, careful to maintain distance, respectful, present but not presuming. He brought groceries, books for the children, legal updates from Robert Hartley. He sat on the porch with Caroline, drinking coffee as the sun set over the trees. "You're different out here," he said one evening, "more relaxed. I'm not looking over my shoulder constantly, not waiting for the next attack. The attacks will come again. The hearing is next week." "I know." Caroline wrapped her hands around her coffee mug. "But at least I'll face them rested, whole." Harrison nodded. His eyes were on the horizon, but she could feel his attention on her. "Can I ask you something?" she said. "Anything. Why are you really doing this? The cottage, the support, all of it. I'm a stranger, a complication. Why involve yourself?" He was quiet for a long moment. The wind rustled through the bare branches. Somewhere an owl called. "My mother told you about my father," he said finally. "Yes. What she didn't tell you is what happened to Mita. How I spent years choosing women who couldn't love me, who made me work for every scrap of attention, who made me feel invisible. Your ex-wife, among others." He turned to face her. "I was 40 years old before I understood the pattern. Before I realized I was recreating my parents' marriage, trying to earn love that was never going to come." "What changed?" "Therapy, a lot of therapy." He smiled slightly, and a promise to myself that if I ever saw someone else trapped in that pattern, I would help if I could. "So I'm a project, a way to work through your own issues." "No." His voice was firm. "You're a person I admire, a person who deserves better than what she's received." He paused. "And honestly, helping you helps me, reminds me how far I've come, how far we can all come if we're brave enough." Carolyn looked at him, really looked. The kindness in his eyes, the patience in his bearing, the absence of any expectation. "I don't know how to trust this," she said quietly. "Trust you. Trust kindness." "You don't have to. Not yet. Trust takes time." He stood, stretched. "I should go. Early meeting tomorrow." "Harrison." He turned. "Thank you," she said, "for everything." He smiled. "You're welcome, Caroline, for everything." She watched his car disappear down the driveway, the taillights fading into the darkness. Something was shifting inside her, something she wasn't ready to name. The darkest night came 3 days before the hearing. Caroline couldn't sleep, hadn't slept properly in days, despite the cottage's peace. Her mind raced with fears. What if she lost? What if they took the children? What if everything she'd fought for meant nothing? At 2 in the morning, she found herself on the bathroom floor. The tiles were warmer here than in the hotel, worn smooth by years of footsteps, familiar somehow. Safe. She wrapped her arms around her belly. The baby had been quiet tonight, sleeping while her mother fell apart. What am I doing? What have I done? The doubts came in waves, each one stronger than the last. I left my husband, destroyed my family, uprooted my children. And for what? Some idea of self-respect? Some fantasy of independence? Maybe Vivian was right. Maybe she was just hormonal, dramatic, making mountains out of molehills. Maybe Derek would change. Maybe counseling would help. Maybe she should just go home and pretend none of this had happened. The baby kicked, sharp and sudden. No, I cannot go back. I know what I saw. I know what I found. But knowing didn't make the fear less real. Didn't make the loneliness less crushing. She had been alone for so long, even in her marriage, especially in her marriage. Derek's absence had carved a hole in her that she'd tried to fill with children, with activities, with the illusion of purpose. But the hole was still there, dark and deep and hungry. And now, in the middle of the night in a borrowed cottage, she had to face it. I am not enough. That's what she'd always believed, what Derek had taught her. Gradually, insidiously, every missed dinner, every forgotten anniversary, every glance that went in through her instead of at her. You are not enough. You are invisible. You don't matter. The tears came then, harder than before, sobs that shook her entire body. She cried for the woman she used to be, the hopeful bride who believed in fairy tales, the young mother who thought love would be enough. She cried for the children, Lily with her two old eyes, Ethan with his quiet watchfulness, the baby who would never know a two-parent home. She cried for the future she had imagined, the family dinners, the grandchildren, the growing old together. All of it gone, shattered, lost, and underneath the grief, something else, something harder to face, anger, at Derek, for his lies, his betrayal, his casual destruction of everything they'd built, at Vivian, for knowing and saying nothing, for blaming her for her own mistreatment, at herself, for staying so long, for explaining away the inexcusable, for teaching her children that this was what love looked like. The anger rose like bile in her throat, hot and bitter and cleansing. I am angry. I have every right to be angry. The realization felt like breaking through a surface, like gasping for air after too long underwater. She had been so focused on being reasonable, understanding, easy to live with. She had swallowed her anger until it poisoned her from within. No more. She stood slowly, walked to the sink, splashed cold water on her face. The woman in the mirror looked different, older, harder, but also somehow stronger. I am angry, and my anger is valid. My anger will save me. She walked back to her bedroom, lay down, closed her eyes. When she finally slept, she dreamed of fire. Morning came gray and cold. Snow threatened in the heavy clouds. Margaret was already in the kitchen when Caroline came down. Coffee brewing, bacon sizzling. Normal sounds, comforting sounds. Bad night? Margaret asked. Yes. Better now? Caroline considered the question. Not better, but clearer. Margaret nodded. That's how healing works. Not better all at once, just clearer, bit by bit. I was thinking about anger last night, how I've spent years suppressing it. Anger is a gift, Margaret said. It tells you when boundaries have been crossed, when you've been mistreated. Women are taught to fear their anger, to apologize for it, but anger channeled properly is a powerful force. How do you channel it properly? You use it as fuel, not for revenge, but for justice, for change. Margaret set a plate of bacon and eggs before her. Eat, you need your strength. Big week ahead. The children came down for breakfast, Lily chattering about the dream she'd had, Ethan quiet as always, but smiling when the Caroline ruffled his hair. This is what I'm fighting for. Not money, not revenge. This. The phone rang at noon. Robert Hartley. Good news and bad news, he said. Which first? Bad? Derek's team has filed additional motions. Character witnesses. Expert testimony. They're throwing everything they have at this. Carolyn's stomach clenched. And the good news? Natasha Price has agreed to testify in person. Her documentation is even more extensive than we thought. Emails where Derek explicitly discusses the forged prenuptial. Texts where he talks about leaving you with nothing. He put that in writing? Arrogance makes people sloppy. Your husband thought he was untouchable. He's about to learn otherwise. Carolyn hung up, stared out the window at the bare trees. One more week, and it would all be decided. She was ready. The courthouse loomed gray against the December sky. Carolyn stood outside for a long moment, gathering herself, feeling the baby shift inside her. 8.5 months now. Her belly was huge. Her feet were swollen, but her spine was straight. Robert Hartley waited at the entrance. Ready? As I'll ever be. The mediation room was smaller than she expected. A long table, chairs on either side, a retired judge presiding. Derek was already there. He looked thinner than the last time she'd seen him. Older. His eyes were bloodshot. His suit, usually immaculate, was slightly wrinkled. He looked at her when she entered. Something flickered in his expression. Hope? Regret? She didn't care. His lawyer, a shark named Patterson, stood as she entered. Mrs. Mitchell, I trust we can resolve this amicably. That depends entirely on your client. They sat, Carolyn on one side with Robert, Derek on the other with Patterson, the mediator at the head. We're here to discuss terms of dissolution, the mediator began. I understand there are contested assets and custody arrangements. Patterson spoke first, smooth, rehearsed. My client is willing to be generous. Primary custody to Mrs. Mitchell. The family home, monthly support of $10,000. And the company? Mitchell Industries is not a marital asset. My client built it from the ground up. Mrs. Mitchell has no claim to— I have the original prenuptial, Robert interrupted, signed by both parties, granting Mrs. Mitchell 50% of all business assets acquired during the marriage. That agreement was modified. The modification is fraudulent. Robert spread papers across the table. Forensic analysis confirms Mrs. Mitchell's signature was forged. We have expert testimony, documentation, and witness statements confirming Mr. Mitchell orchestrated this fraud. Silence fell. Derek's face went pale. This is absurd, Patterson said, but his voice had lost its smoothness. What's absurd is a man spending 4 years planning to defraud his wife while carrying on an affair with his assistant. Robert leaned forward. We have emails, Mr. Patterson, texts, financial records. Would you like me to read them into the record? That won't be necessary. The mediator held up a hand. Mr. Mitchell, your attorney will need time to review these allegations. We'll reconvene. No. Everyone turned to look at Derek. He was staring at Caroline, his expression unreadable. No more delays, he said. I want to speak to my wife. Alone. That's highly irregular, Patterson began. I don't care. Derek stood. 5 minutes. That's all I ask. Caroline looked at Robert. He shrugged slightly. Your call. 5 minutes, she said. In view of the window, no closed doors. They walked to the corner of the room, near the windows. Derek stood with his back to the glass. Caroline faced him. For a long moment, neither spoke. You look good, Derek finally said. The pregnancy agrees with you. Don't. Don't what? Don't pretend. Don't try to charm me. It's too late for that. Derek sighed, ran a hand through his hair, a gesture she knew well. He did it when he was tired, when he had run out of options. Caroline, this has gone too far. Come home. I'll end things with Natasha. We can go to counseling. Derek. She kept her voice steady. I'm not coming home. I haven't been home in years. I've been living in a house with a man who forgot I existed. That's not fair. You missed 37 of Lily's school events. 37. I counted. You forgot our anniversary 3 years running. You look it through me, Derek, like I was furniture. And when I wasn't convenient anymore, you forged documents to steal my future. His jaw tightened. You're exaggerating. You always exaggerate. I have receipts, literally. 4 years of jewelry and lingerie I never received. $387,000 I never saw. A forged prenuptial designed to leave me with nothing. I was protecting the company. You were protecting yourself from having to share anything with the woman who gave you 6 years of her life, 3 children. Everything. Derek's composure cracked. Just slightly. A tremor around the eyes, a tightness in the jaw. What do you want? He asked quietly. 50% of Mitchell Industries. Primary custody of the children. You can have visitation supervised until you prove you can actually show up, and enough monthly support to raise them properly. That's everything. You want everything. No. Carolyn shook her head. I want what I'm owed, what you tried to steal from me, what I earned by standing beside you while you built your empire, while I raised our children alone, while I smiled at your clients and hosted your parties and pretended everything was fine. This will destroy the company. The shareholders should have thought of that before you committed fraud. Derek stared at her. Something shifted in his expression. Recognition, maybe. The realization that he had underestimated her. that the woman he had dismissed for years was not who he thought she was. "I loved you," he said. "At the beginning. I really did." "I know." Caroline's voice softened, just slightly. "I loved you too. That's the saddest part." She turned and walked back to the table, sat down, folded her hands. "We're done here," she said. "My terms stand." The legal machinery ground forward after that. Derek's lawyer tried more motions, more delays, more obstacles, but the evidence was too strong, too clear. Natasha testified, calm and collected, despite Derek's glare. She detailed 4 years of promises and lies, produced emails, texts, financial records. "He told me he was leaving her," Natasha said. "After every fight, every problem, he'd say, 'Soon, when the time is right,' but the time was never right. I was just another thing he was using." The forensic accountant testified, the handwriting expert, the psychiatrist who examined Caroline and found her not only competent but remarkably stable given her circumstances. Derek's false psychiatrist was demolished on cross-examination, his credentials questioned, his past testimony exposed. 3 weeks of hearings, 3 weeks of evidence and arguments and exhausting testimony. And then it was over. The judge's ruling was decisive, fraud confirmed, original prenuptial reinstated. Carolyn received 50% of Mitchell Industries, primary custody of all 3 children, the family home, substantial monthly support. Derek's company, already shaky from the scandal, began to crumble. Board members resigned. Investors withdrew. The stock price fell by 30% in a single day. Within a month, Derek would be forced to sell his stake at a fraction of its value. The empire he had built, the empire he had tried to protect at Caroline's expense, would slip through his fingers. Justice. This was justice. Carolyn walked out of the courthouse into pale December sunshine. Harrison waited on the steps. Not too close, never presuming. "I won," she said. "You won. I don't know what happens now." He smiled. "That's the best part." They stood together in the cold air. Strangers who had become something else, something neither of them had expected. "I barely know you," she said. "I know. This is completely insane. Probably. I'm having another man's baby in 3 weeks. The baby will have a mother who loved it enough to fight for a better life. That's all any child needs." Carolyn looked at him, at the kindness in his eyes, the patience in his bearing, the absence of any expectation. She didn't love him, not yet, maybe not ever, but she trusted him, and after years of trusting the wrong person, that felt like a miracle. "I want to take this slow," she said. "Whatever this is. Slow is good. Slow is exactly what we should do. You might get tired of waiting. I've waited my whole life for someone worth waiting for." He held out his hand. "Shall we?" She took it. His palm was warm against hers, solid, real. They walked down the courthouse steps together, into the pale winter sun, into whatever came next. The courtroom fell silent as Natasha Price took the stand. She was younger than Caroline expected to see in person. 29, but she looked younger still, nervous. Her hands trembled slightly as she arranged her notes. Derek sat at the defendant's table. His face was stone, but his eyes burned with something. Betrayal, maybe. Fury at being outmaneuvered by the woman he had used. "Ms. Price," Robert Hartley began gently, "how long was your relationship with Derek Mitchell?" 4 years and 3 months. "And during that time, did he make promises to you regarding his marriage?" "Yes." Natasha's voice was barely above a whisper. "He told me he was going to leave his wife, that they had an arrangement, that she knew about us." "Did you believe him?" "At first." She looked down at her hands. "But then things started not adding up. He'd cancel plans at the last minute. He'd never take me anywhere public. He'd get nervous whenever his phone rang." "When did you learn the truth?" "About 2 months ago, after Mrs. Mitchell left him." Natasha's voice steadied. "He called me, furious, said she'd found out everything and was trying to destroy him. That's when I realized he'd never planned to leave. He was just telling me what I wanted to hear." "You have documentation of your relationship?" "Yes." Natasha opened a folder. Emails, text messages, hotel receipts, and She hesitated, glanced at Derek, then away. Recordings of some of our conversations. The courtroom stirred. Derek's lawyer objected, was overruled. Robert played the first recording. Derek's voice filled the room, clear and damning. The prenuptial modification is airtight. My lawyer made sure of it. By the time Caroline figures out anything's wrong, she'll be out of options. She can keep the house, the kids, whatever, but the company is mine. She contributed nothing of value to building it. Caroline sat very still, listening to her husband discuss her destruction as casually as he might discuss a business merger. Nothing of value. 6 years, 3 children, her career, her identity, nothing of value. She did not cry, had cried enough. Now she just felt cold, distant, like watching a movie about someone else's life. The recordings continued. Derek discussing the forged signature. Derek talking about his lawyers. Derek laughing about how easy it had been to fool her. She's so busy with the kids, she doesn't notice anything. I could bring Natasha to dinner and she'd just think it was a client. That's the beauty of marrying someone simple. Simple. That was how he saw her. Not intelligent, not capable, just simple. The anger rose again, clean and hot and clarifying. When the recordings ended, the room was silent. Even Derek's lawyer seemed at a loss. No further questions, Robert said. The cross-examination was brutal but ineffective. Natasha held her ground. She had nothing left to lose and nothing left to fear. More witnesses followed. The forensic accountant detailing the hidden assets, the handwriting expert confirming the forgery, the psychiatrist explaining how the false diagnosis had been manufactured. Derek's defense crumbled piece by piece. His lawyers tried to spin, to deflect, to minimize. But the evidence was overwhelming. At noon, the judge called a recess. Carolyn walked outside for air. The December wind was sharp against her face. Harrison found her by the fountain. "How are you holding up?" "I don't know." She stared at the water, frozen at the edges, but still flowing in the center. Hearing it all laid out like that, 4 years of planning, 4 years of lies, it's surreal. Natasha's testimony was powerful. She loved him. Carolyn shook her head. That's the strange part. She really loved him, and he used her the same way he used me. Some people only know how to use. Is that what he is? Just broken? Does it matter? Carolyn considered this. For so long, she had wanted to understand, wanted to find the reason, the explanation, the thing that would make it all make sense, but some things didn't make sense. Some people just chose destruction. "No," she said finally, "it doesn't matter, not anymore." The verdict came at 3:47 in the afternoon. Fraud confirmed, every count. The forged prenuptial invalidated. The hidden assets ordered, returned. Full restoration of Caroline's rights under the original agreement. 50% of Mitchell Industries. Primary custody of all 3 children. The family home. Monthly support of $25,000 until the youngest child turned 18. Derek sat motionless as the verdict was read. His face was blank, empty. The mask he had worn for so long finally stripped away. When it was over, he stood, looked at Caroline across the courtroom. For one moment, something flickered in his eyes. Regret? Remorse? Then it was gone, replaced by something harder, colder. He walked out without a word. Caroline watched him go, the man she had married, the father of her children, the architect of her destruction. She felt nothing. "Mrs. Mitchell," Robert appeared at her elbow. "It's over." "I know. How do you feel?" She thought about the question, really thought. "Free," she said. "I feel free." The news spread fast. Mitchell Industries' stock dropped 40% in a single day. The board demanded Derek's resignation. Investors fled. Partners dissolved their agreements. Within a week, Derek was forced to sell his stake at fire sale prices. The company he had built, the company he had tried to protect at any cost, crumbled in his hands. Carolyn watched from a distance, reading the headlines, following the aftermath. She took no pleasure in his destruction. That surprised her. She had expected satisfaction, vindication, the sweet taste of revenge. Instead, she just felt sad for the waste of it all, the years lost, the love squandered, the family that could have been. But sadness was not the same as regret. She did not regret leaving, did not regret fighting, did not regret standing up for herself and her children. She regretted trusting him, believing him, wasting so much of herself on someone who couldn't see her. But those regrets were fading too, replaced by something new, something like hope. The cottage welcomed her back like an old friend. The children ran through the door, already shouting for Grandma Marge. Margaret appeared from the kitchen, arms open, face beaming. "You're home," she said, wrapping Caroline in a hug. Home, the words settled into Caroline's chest, warm and right. "Yes," she said, "I'm home." That evening, Harrison arrived with champagne, sparkling cider for Caroline, a bottle of the real stuff for the adults. They sat on the porch despite the cold, wrapped in blankets, watching stars emerge through the bare branches. "What happens now?" Harrison asked. "I don't know." Caroline cradled her cider. "The penthouse sale closes next month. I'll buy something smaller, something that feels like mine. And the company shares? I'll keep them. Learn the business. Make Derek watch me succeed." She smiled slightly. "Maybe that's petty." "It's not petty, it's justice. Poetic justice, maybe." They sat in comfortable silence, the kind of silence that didn't need filling. "The baby's due in 2 weeks," Caroline said. "I know. Everything's going to change. It already has." She looked at him, at this man who had appeared out of nowhere, who had asked for nothing and given everything, who saw her in a way Derek never had. "Thank you," she said, "for all of it. The cottage, the support, the presence, You don't need to thank me. I know, but I want to." She reached over, took his hand. "I couldn't have done this alone." "Yes, you could have." His fingers closed around hers, gentle but firm. "You just didn't have to." The stars wheeled overhead. The night grew colder, but Caroline felt warm for the first time in years. Labor began at sunrise. Caroline woke to the familiar cramping, familiar from Lily, from Ethan, a tightening that said, "It's time." She lay still for a moment, watching the light creep across the ceiling, feeling the waves build and recede. Then she called out, calm but clear, "Margaret, I think it's happening." The cottage erupted into organized chaos. Margaret took charge immediately, calling the hospital, packing the bag, waking the children. "We don't have time to reach the city," Margaret said, hanging up the phone. "The ambulance is on its way, but the contractions are too close together." "What does that mean?" Lily asked, her eyes wide. "It means the baby is impatient," Carolyn said. She managed a smile despite the pain. "Just like you were." Harrison arrived before the ambulance. He took one look at Caroline and went pale. "I called Dr. Warren," he said. "She's on her way, 20 minutes. The baby might not wait 20 minutes. The next contraction hit, harder than before. Caroline gripped the bedpost, breathed through it. "Okay," she said when it passed. "New plan, Margaret. You've done this before? Delivered a baby?" Margaret's eyebrows rose. "Not personally, but I've been present for 3. My mother was a midwife." "Close enough." The children were sent to Brenda's mother, who arrived with a speed that suggested she'd been waiting for this call. Harrison held Caroline's hand. Margaret prepared supplies. The contractions came faster, closer. Caroline surrendered to the rhythm of it, the ancient dance of bringing new life into the world. Dr. Warren arrived with 5 minutes to spare, professional, calm. She took over smoothly, checking dilation, monitoring heartbeat. "You're doing great," she said. One more push." Caroline pushed, felt the shift, the release, and then crying. The sweet, furious wail of a newborn taking her first breath. "It's a girl," Dr. Warren announced. "Perfect and healthy." They placed the baby on Caroline's chest, tiny and red and screaming, fists clenched against the cold new world. Caroline looked down at her daughter, at this child who would never know her father, who would grow up in a different world than her siblings. "Hello," she whispered. "I've been waiting for you." The baby's eyes opened, dark and unfocused, but somehow, impossibly, she seemed to look right at Caroline. "What will you name her?" Harrison asked. Caroline considered. She had thought about names for months. Traditional names, family names, names that connected to the past. But this baby wasn't about the past. She was about the future. Hope, Carolyn said. Her name is Hope. The cottage settled into a new rhythm. Lily and Ethan returned to meet their sister. Lily held her with careful, wondering hands. Ethan peeked at her face and declared her squishy. Margaret became a permanent fixture. She moved into the guest room, claiming she was too old to drive back and forth. But Caroline saw the joy in her eyes, the purpose, the grandmother she had always wanted to be. Harrison came and went, helpful but unobtrusive. He changed diapers without being asked, made bottles when Caroline was too tired, read stories to Lily and Ethan when they needed distraction. He never asked for anything, never pushed, never presumed, but something was growing between them, quiet and steady and real. 6 months later, Caroline stood in her new house, not the penthouse. That had sold for millions, the money safely invested. This house was smaller, a brownstone in Brooklyn near Brenda's place. 4 bedrooms, a garden out back, a neighborhood where children played in the streets. The moving boxes were almost unpacked. The children were at school. Hope napped in her crib upstairs. Carolyn walked through the empty rooms, touching walls, imagining futures. The kitchen where she would cook dinner for her children. The living room where they would watch movies together. The garden where Hope would take her first steps. Her house, her life, her future. The doorbell rang. Harrison stood on the step, a bottle of wine in his hands. Housewarming gift, he said. Come in. They sat in the still, bare living room, on folding chairs because the furniture hadn't arrived yet, drinking wine from paper cups because the glasses were still packed. It's a good house, Harrison said. It feels like home. You deserve that, after everything. Carolyn looked at him, really looked. At this man who had seen her at her worst, who had helped her without asking, who had waited patiently for her to be ready. Was she ready? Harrison, she said, yes. I think I might be ready. He set down his cup, leaned forward. Ready for what? To try, to see if this, she gestured between them, if this could be something. It already is something. Something more than, he smiled, that warm, patient smile she had come to depend on. I've been waiting, he said, hoping, but I didn't want to push. I know, that's why I trust you. He reached over, took her hand. His palm was warm against hers. Familiar now. Safe. We'll go slow, he said. No pressure, no expectations. Yes. And if you ever need to stop. Harrison. Yes? Stop talking. She leaned forward, kissed him, soft and tentative and full of possibility. When they pulled apart, he was smiling. She was too. Well, he said, that's a good start. Derek sent a card for Lily's 8th birthday. Not presents, not effort, just cardboard and guilt. $100 bill tucked inside, as if money could replace attention. Lily studied the card for a long moment, her face unreadable. Mommy, she said, I think Daddy is sad. Yes, honey, I think he is. Is it our fault? Carolyn knelt down, took her daughter's hands. No, sweet girl, listen to me. None of this is your fault. Not ever. Your daddy loved his work more than he loved being present. That was his choice. His failure? Not yours. Never yours. Lily considered this, 8 years old and already so wise. Is Harrison going to be our new daddy? The question caught Caroline off guard. She hadn't planned this conversation, hadn't thought about how to explain. Harrison is our friend, she said carefully. A very good friend. Maybe someday he'll be more than that. But he'll never replace your daddy. You'll always have one father. That doesn't change. But Harrison shows up. Simple words, devastating truth. Yes, Caroline said. Harrison shows up. I like that. I do too. Lily looked at the card in her hands. Then deliberately, she put it aside, reached for the package Harrison had left that morning. Can I open this now? Of course, baby. Inside was a telescope, child-sized but real, with a note in Harrison's handwriting. For exploring new worlds, love Harrison. Lily's face lit up. He remembered. I told him I wanted to see the stars up close." She ran off to find Ethan, already planning their first stargazing session. Caroline sat alone in the living room, the birthday card from Derek forgotten on the table. The hardest part is admitting I knew all along. But knowing is what saved me. She had known, somewhere deep inside, known that Derek was never going to be the husband she needed, the father her children deserved. But she had hoped, had believed, had waited for a transformation that was never going to come. Now she was done waiting, done hoping for someone to become who they should have been all along. She had found someone who already was. The brownstone kitchen was chaos on Sunday morning. Lily practiced spelling words at the table. Ethan built a tower with blocks on the floor. Hope babbled in her high chair, smearing oatmeal across her face with cheerful abandon. Harrison flipped pancakes at the stove. Chocolate chip, Lily's favorite. He moved through the kitchen with easy familiarity now. He knew where the plates were, where the syrup lived, how the finicky burner needed coaxing. Margaret sat at the table reading the newspaper, occasionally calling out quiz questions from the crossword puzzle. Carolyn stood in the doorway, watching. This is what I was looking for. Not perfection, not wealth, just presence, just being seen. She thought about the woman she had been 2 years ago, the woman who checked her phone obsessively, who made excuses for absence, who smiled through pain because she didn't know another way. That woman was gone, not dead, transformed. She had walked through fire, had lost everything she thought she needed, and had found, on the other side, everything she actually wanted. "Mommy?" Lily looked up from her spelling. "Is Harrison coming to my birthday party this year?" The question echoed across time. The same question. Different answer. Carolyn looked at Harrison. He was already nodding, already smiling, already there. "Yes, baby," she said. "He'll be there." And this time she knew it was true. Later that evening, after the children were in bed, Carolyn sat with Harrison on the back porch. The Brooklyn sky was hazy with city lights, but a few stars still managed to shine through. "I've been thinking," Harrison said. "Dangerous," he smiled. "About us, about the future. And? And I'm not in any rush." He took her hand. "I spent 40 years looking for something real, something lasting. I'm not going to risk losing it by moving too fast. What if I want to move a little faster?" He raised an eyebrow. "Define a little faster." "I was thinking, maybe you could stop going home at night. Maybe you could stay." Harrison was quiet for a long moment. When he spoke, his voice was careful. "Are you sure? I've never been more sure of anything. The children love you. Lily asks for you every day you are not here. Ethan shows you every drawing." Hope's first word was "har." She smiled. "They've already made their choice. Now I'm making mine." "Caroline." He squeezed her hand. "I don't take this lightly. What you're offering, what it means. I know, that's why I'm offering it." He leaned over, kissed her forehead, then her cheek, then her lips. "Okay," he said, "I'll stay." The stars continued their slow wheel overhead. The city hummed its endless song, and two people who had been invisible to the ones who should have seen them sat together in the darkness. Finally seen. Finally home. 1 year later, they stood before family and friends in the cottage garden. The same garden where Caroline had rediscovered herself. The same trees that had sheltered her through her darkest days. The ceremony was small, intimate, just the people who mattered. Lily was the flower girl, scattering petals with fierce concentration. Ethan was the ring bearer, walking with careful dignity. Hope, now walking, toddled down the aisle in a tiny white dress, heading straight for Harrison with arms outstretched. He picked her up, held her as the vows were spoken, as promises were made. Carolyn looked at the man before her, at the children surrounding them, at Margaret wiping happy tears, at Brenda grinning like she had known all along. She thought about the journey that had brought her here, the pain, the fear, the nights on bathroom floors, the morning she had driven away from everything she knew. She thought about the woman she had been, the woman she had become. The prison door had been unlocked all along. She had been her own warden, and now she was free. "I do," she said. Harrison smiled. "I do." the minister pronounced them married. The small crowd cheered. Lily threw more flower petals, this time into the air. And somewhere in an apartment he could barely afford, Derek Mitchell sat alone, watching the stock ticker, counting his losses, wondering where it had all gone wrong. He would never understand, could never understand, because he had never really seen the woman he had married, had never valued what he had never recognized that his empire was built on a foundation of lies. The CEO had lost his family in one night. The billionaire had gained the family he always wanted. And Caroline had found something even better. She had found herself. And that is how one night destroyed everything a CEO spent years just building. While a billionaire gained the family he never knew he needed. Carolyn's journey reminds us of something powerful. Sometimes losing everything is the first step to finding what we truly deserve. If this story touched your heart, do me a small favor. Hit that like button, it helps more than you know. Drop a comment below, tell me, have you ever felt invisible to someone who should have seen you? I read every single comment, and your stories inspire the next ones I tell. Share this with a friend who needs to hear that starting over is not the end. It is the beginning. And if you are new here, subscribe and tap that notification bell. I post stories like this every week. Stories about strong women who refuse to be broken. Stories about justice. Stories about finding love when you least expect it. Thank you for staying until the end. You are part of this family now. I will see you in the next story.